Hello and welcome back to episode number 32 of the Why Carbs Won't Make You Fat podcast. Josh is back fresh from his holiday. Um, the episodes are all over the shop out there. I've just been releasing and scheduling the last couple. I got pretty busy and I got pretty unorganized. So that's what happens in life. But we're back on the wagon making content.
Mhm.
Hopefully, Nick can join us next week. Nick
Mhm.
could join us the last time I said that, and then I cancelled on him, so it's not
Oh,
his
really?
fault. Yeah, we were setting up for the Hampshire Strongest Strongman
Mhm.
Comp at HQ, and it got to like 10 o'clock on Friday. I think Nick and I were getting together at like 5 on the Friday to record it, and I was like, that ain't happening today. We're going to be here late doing all this stuff. So apologies to the
Mm.
listeners. We will get to hear Nick soon. I promise you. He's still kicking around, and he'll be great when we get him back on. But
Yeah.
it's just a bit of a scheduling nightmare, and he's got a very very little one as well. So
Mhm.
we got to respect that. But Josh, you're just back from your Italian adventures. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so me, my fiance, and a friend, we flew to Florence, hired a car, and we were basically going out there for holiday and also mutual friends' wedding too. But on the Saturday that we flew out, we weren't checking into the villa till about 4 o'clock. So we had some time to kill. We went to Florence, had a wander around there, saw a lot of really fantastic architecture, and then eventually found somewhere to. Oh, not that there's ever an issue of finding somewhere to eat in Italy, but we found a place that was pretty central in more of a touristy part, which can at times be risky in
Yeah,
quality of what they supply. But
yeah, fair.
fortunately, we found a very good one, and so I had beef tartare with burrata salad and rocket, and that was beef tartare had a bit of truffle oil in it and some capers,
Wow.
and was really delicious. And then I had a pizza with mushrooms and prosciutto on it. Base was really quite thin and nice and crispy. Good tomato sauce and cheese on top, and then uh, Kinga, she had and my friend, he had pappardelle pasta with
Nice.
a beef ragu, which she couldn't finish hers, so I happily finished that
Nice,
for her.
mate.
But yeah, tried some interesting things. No, nothing was bad, like it taste wise and things like that. Everything was good because the food quality over there is really important to Italians.
Yeah.
Um,
It's basically like high quality of the ingredient, but just
mm,
very minimal ingredient.
yeah,
Like bread, well, pizza dough,
mm,
tomato sauce with some herbs in it, bit of cheese.
yeah.
Done.
And we went when we checked in at the villa, and then others came, and then we went to a restaurant nearby where we were staying, and it was picturesque. You could like if you could imagine a converted villa on the side of a hill in Tuscany, overlooking the village below and things like that. It was exactly like that. And standout meal I had there was slow cooked wild boar, but with a dark chocolate sauce
Oh,
with
really?
raisins, pine nuts, and I had roasted veg with it and roasted puffed roast potatoes, which are delish. But the boar was interesting because it was a mix of savory, sweet,
Mm.
bitterness, and some crunch from the peanuts, and it was very well cooked, very tender meat,
Yeah.
and just really nice. And then the rest of the time, fortunately, we had easy access to a supermarket nearby and cooking facilities at the villa we were staying at. And so we stocked up on usual things that we would have. So eggs, oats, milks, some meats, cheeses, salads, and all that sort of stuff. So breakfast pretty much every morning was a nice communal thing because there was about
Oh, nice.
12 other people staying in the villa.
Oh, great.
And one of the couples had like a 1.5-year-old boy who was very sweet, nice temperament.
Cute.
So it had a just nice family feel. And we had a pool there at the villa, so it was nice to get some swimming in, which I remembered. I'm not that good at swimming, and it's hard, but let's get.
I remember that at the weekend, but I'll talk about that in a bit.
Hmm. But, just more from a point of how to eat when you're on holiday. And if you have the facilities to do so, like if you've got an Airbnb with a little kitchen, or in this case, we were staying in a villa with a kitchen, um, for breakfast and stuff like that, do all your usual things that you would do as if you were at
Yeah,
home. And then when you're going out exploring and trying the local delicacies and cuisine, just go for your life, really. Enjoy the holiday because it's
yeah,
the point of experiencing a new culture. And particularly in Europe, and you do walk an awful lot. I think on
yeah,
average, when we're going
exactly right.
around, we went to Florence, we went to Pisa, Siena, another place called Pistoia. But minimum was about 15,000 steps a day or something like that, or close to 20,000. So it's your neat's going to be up there.
Yeah,
Um, we did have a a little gym adjacent to our room, which had a very basic like barbell bench setup and things like that. So there was
right.
opportunity to do some exercise, but more often than not, just did some body weight EMOMs
Very nice.
outside by the pool, and then dip in the pool and do some laps there conservatively because it's been a very long time since I've swam.
Swim
Um,
like a brick if you're anything
yeah,
like
exactly. I think, oh, I don't really float that well anymore.
that.
But yeah, little things like that. And if you are into tracking, do track if you want to, but realize you're there to enjoy
Yeah,
yourself.
yeah,
And you can just relax a little bit, and
yeah.
you're not going to do a huge amount of damage.
No, not at all. Not
No.
at all. I quite like the couple of concepts of it's like if it's going to be the best version of that thing,
Mm.
whether it's just like because of the moment as well.
Hmm.
So it could be actually like a really like fish and like in the UK, fish and chips tends to be better by the coast, right? Because the fish is fresher and they sell a lot of it, so the batter's fresh and all that. But I'm not a huge fan of fish and chips, but like a nice like chip shop bag of chips as you walk along the beach.
Hmm.
Actually, like it's more about the moment than the slightly soggy, overly salted
Yeah.
bag of potato you've got in your hand. Uh,
Hmm.
Similar with like, but then equally that sort of wild boar dish you described, like
Hmm.
maybe if you were being conscious of calories, maybe that would exceed your calories on that day. But
Mm.
when are you ever going to have that again?
Yeah, exactly.
In especially in that moment. So have at it. I
Mm.
also the other concept is I brought up probably before is that I love the phrase of like the no Dorito rule,
Okay.
which I picked up from a guy called Mike Vacanti, but he talks about this story where he was traveling. I think it was in Italy, and he was like American guy, so more unusual for them to travel to Europe on holiday. But I guess
Mm.
Italy's a popular destination for Americans. Either
Yeah.
way, he was like, I caught myself just in the hotel room, just inhaling an entire sharing bag of Doritos,
Hmm.
and he's like, dude, you can do that at home.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about all this pizza and like why am I not inhaling the pizza and all the like authentic Italian stuff that I can't get at home? Why am I
Mm.
having this thing that I have at home and tastes average at home?
Yeah.
Pick the thing to go all in at as well. Just don't. Yeah, I've never really. I do kind of grasp the concept of people who go away on holiday and then it's just an all-out just attack, and maybe that's like of food basically,
Mm.
just like eat and drink everything that's not nailed down. Cool, but that sounds a lot like stress management to me than anything else,
Yeah. Rather
or
than actually enjoy.
potentially like an over restriction the rest of the time,
Hmm.
so that holiday has to be this like you've just
Massive
been let
splurge.
out of jail
Hmm.
or something. I've never fully got around that in my head. I'll be honest about that. I mean, if I would try and understand it as a coach and sit down with that person, ask them some questions, and it's very specific to the person, obviously.
Yeah.
But I've never really fully been like that because
No.
for me, eating should just be eating all of it should be the same or similar all of the time, really,
Hmm.
if we're getting it right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I did a little experiment to see because I'm pretty certain there were some days where I was under my whatever my maintenance is, which is probably
Mm.
about 3,000, 3,1, 3,2, something like that. Um,
Yeah, you'll be up there. You'll be like
yeah,
3.5, I reckon.
yeah. So
I'm 3.5.
Okay.
You're bigger than
Yeah.
me.
And yeah, I felt hungry in parts, but then I was kind of focused on doing whatever else we were doing. So it was a really nice bunch of people. And then on the stag do, we went paintball, which was
Oh, nice. Yeah, and running
excellent.
around everywhere.
Yeah, and doing it in full gear, but in like 37-degree heat in
Christ.
Tuscany, it was like, okay, I'm pissing sweat now.
Yeah.
Um, but then before the trip, I did do a little bit of preparation. So I brought some electrolyte sachets. I brought some
Nice.
travel whey protein sachets as well. So I could still try and hit those necessary things. And the amount of water that we were drinking, we're pissing it out pretty
Mm.
quickly anyway, or sweating it out. And so just needed to replace those minerals that we were losing through that. So the electrolytes came in very handy. And one of the guys we were with was like feeling really rough on one of the days. And I was like, have that, see
Yeah.
how you feel. And he was like, better after that.
Yeah.
So there is yeah, little numerous companies like the company I'm using at the moment called Marshon.
Yeah.
Their supplement range I really like, and they do have a travel pack where you get
Oh, that's quite cool. It's a good idea.
yeah, they got seven single serving sachets of creatine, electrolytes, and then four or five bags or something like that of vanilla or chocolate whey protein,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah, it's good. So I thought it was a worthwhile thing buying.
Cool. Nice.
Um, but yeah, it was a really enjoyable trip. Definitely go back. It was the first time also driving on the wrong side of the road for me because I'd also um, several times of going to change gear and then just hitting my left hand on the window.
Okay.
Like, oh yes, over there again.
It's the other side.
Um,
It's the other side.
yeah, but after a couple of goes, I was like, oh, I'm comfortable now. This is fine.
At least the gearbox is the same direction.
Exactly. Yeah, and the pedals are too.
That would be just a disaster if it was
Yeah. The
like
only thing is
opposite.
like Italians drive like nutcases a lot of the
Oh
time.
God, yeah, I've never driven in Italy. I've been on a coach and thought, I'm glad I've never driven in Italy.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, they all think they're Hamilton. It would be next year.
Yeah, they do.
They all think they're Charles Leclerc.
Hmm.
Yeah, I always, yeah, like Mediterranean diet is one that is actually relatively low in protein.
Hmm.
But generally, when you're traveling, protein's the hardest thing to get in. So if you want to keep your levels up, and you don't have to for a week, nothing bad's going to happen for a fortnight or so. Like if you want to keep your protein levels up, maybe because you want to manage your hunger, maybe because you're doing a bit of training while you're away and you want to kind of maintain things, just take some protein powder. It's going to be really,
Hmm.
really cheap. You start going and buying like even like Greek yogurt and stuff in supermarkets. Like Greek yogurt
Exactly.
is expensive in the UK because it comes from Greece, I think.
Yeah.
You're not going to find skyr or stuff in Italy because it's not really their bag. They don't really do
No.
breakfast. They do like espresso and a
Oh,
espresso and a
that was another thing. Didn't have a bad coffee anywhere. Like
no,
coffee
no,
pretty
no, no. Just no,
even at
it's
like
impossible.
even at petrol stations was just still really good.
Like that, like crappy vending machine you'd put 5p in over here, just
Hmm.
like get some elite level coffee out of it. Yeah, it's meant to how bad we can make coffee in this country.
Hmm.
Um, but that's a slight tangent. But yeah, it's impossible to have a bad coffee in Italy. Like France is similar to that, but yeah, the Italians do coffee. Well,
Yeah.
that's their thing, right?
Hmm.
So I'll talk about
Yeah, tribal clash.
tribal clash. Yeah. So last weekend, like part of the reason the podcast has not been happening is because we had Hampshire's strongest strongman competition, Valkyrie HQ, over the bank holiday weekend. Um, which took a lot of setting up, a lot of backing down. And then my colleague James went away on the Tuesday after that down to Devon with his family. So I had like all the coaching and stuff to do at HQ. It sounds like this is a list of excuses, but yeah, it was a busy week.
Yeah.
So quite physical. And then we went to an event called Tribal Clash down in Devon, um, where we had a mixed team, three guys, three girls.
Hmm.
You compete against, I think there are 116 teams of six.
Mm.
You compete on the beach, and it's a CrossFit competition, I would say, but it's a low technical, it's more strength and low technique based.
Hmm.
One of the, but two of the founding principles are it's teamwork, so everyone has to do the thing.
Yeah.
So you can't just be reliant on one jet athlete. Everyone has to be well-rounded. And no barbells, so it's all stuff that is very like fun.
Stones, sandbags, that sort of thing.
So the event started out like you've got a trail run is the first thing. So you got 4K trail run up a massive hill and down a massive hill with a lake, well, a pond in the middle of it that you have to swim through a little bit like halfway. That kicks it off, and then you just sort of sequence through the events. Some of the events involved a swim as part of the thing. Many events involved either climbing up a rope or getting yourself over a high wooden beam. That's kind of like the central element of the kit, basically. And like lugging around weights, those worms that you get in CrossFit that you squat with, clean and press and stuff. And some Atlas stones, which we really thought would be a bit of us, but it didn't turn out to be that way. So event runs over 2 days. Second day, we were scheduled to do our Atlas stones because you get to pick that when you do it. So you just go and book a time slot. When it's gone, it's gone. So we turned up there on the Sunday because we had fewer events on the Sunday. That's deliberate because there's a semi-final, which is a rope tug of war for the top 24 teams, and then there's the eliminator, which decides who wins. And being realistic, in our first year, we're not going to end up in the top 24. So we're not counting those two events as part of our day. So we're like, we'll do the Atlas Stones on the day when we'll be fresher because we've got less to do and we've had nice sleep, etc., etc. Unfortunately, it rained just before we did them, and they were bloody wet, and we didn't handle that. Actually, no, we did handle it well. We handled it very well, but we didn't get a very good score because we all went down at least 2 sizes on the stones, and the bigger the stone you manage, the more points you accumulate.
Okay.
So we will know that for next year and practice it harder with wet Atlas stones so we can be better at it. But all things into consideration, fine. But like the whole weekend, just epic. The place looked incredible. So we turned up on the Friday night for the briefing, and it's like a little bit, not quite hairs up on the back of the neck, but just looked really cool. Like, God, shit, we get to do this thing. And then you're all in it together, we're all competing. I think on the first day, like a little bit of lack of experience. Few events didn't go our way because of that. I think ultimately we're probably all a little bit nervous in our own different ways of it. Second day, after the Atlas Stones, the 2 events we did after that, we absolutely crushed. We were almost bottoming all of the events on the first day, and then we were like 65th and 50 something in the last 2 events we did on the second day. So like we doubled our performance on the second day, and that was great because then we ended the event on a high. So yeah, Ike and the teams that won it. So the final was 12 teams. So they do a tug of war to pick the 12 teams. So it's at that stage, the people in first place versus the people in 24th place.
Okay.
So there's like a bit of they've earned the right to be first, right? So they get arguably the worst team, but that team had a massive guy. The 24th team had a massive guy. So the team that were first at that stage had to fight bloody hard. Almost the last team to finish tug of war because they just had to grind, and they're very good, so they had a lot of experience, so they did very well experience wise. I remember the team that won, who ended up winning, they put their lightest athlete at the front of the tug of war, which is fairly obvious if you think about it. She was I reckon she might have been like 46 to 48 kilos. Very absolute specimen of an athlete. She was like very much not overly muscular, but just very strong for her size.
Right.
Bless her, she was absolutely buried by it. She's down on her knees, in bits, because it was a couple of minutes of max effort pulling on this rope until they won. Then they get a 10-15 minute turnaround into the final, which is an eliminator. So there's a bunch of stuff you do. So we've got the first 9 teams to complete the first bit go through to the next phase of the eliminator. The others are out. Then out of that, the next 6 go through to the final bit of the eliminator. And one of the first things they had to do, I can't remember quite the combination, but they had to run down to the bottom of the beach, which on like small shale is very heavy going to run, come back and do must have been like 50 to 60 meters of walking lunges with the worm on the shoulder.
All right.
And that was just to get past the first bit of the eliminator.
Right.
And then it just got worse. And as it started, we were all like, God, I'm glad we didn't even get to tug of war. I don't want to be in the final. So it was so hard. But yeah, absolutely awesome to see people. And like the guys that won it were really good. They'd probably done really well previous years. And they're like a top CrossFit gym from London. They were all like athletes, very well rounded. Like it's just like really inspiring to watch because I think CrossFit sometimes gets a bit of a hammering, but at that level, they'd be great at strongman, they'd be great at trail running, they'd be great at probably triathlon if they put their mind to it. Like they'd be great at weightlifting, no doubt, because they'd probably have to do it for their other CrossFit stuff. They're just like really cool to see. Which like got me thinking in a roundabout way of like I've been thinking all week about different stuff and how it's like motivated me to go and do that competition. And we're definitely going back next year. We loved it so much. And loads of the team were like a bit nervous about it, not really knowing. I'd kind of say I wasn't so nervous because I was more of the case because maybe because I've done a few strongman comps where realistically I'm not going to win.
Yeah.
I just say, oh, just go and have some fun and see what happens. Like a lot of people's anxiety in the team was about letting the team down, but that comes from like a positive place, right? They just don't want to perform to their level so that they're not sort of holding anyone back. And I think a couple of places through the comp, I felt I might have let the team down in places, but that's just because we're all competitive people. Like it's like not a bad thing. But loads of people with this kind of thing, like, oh, I'm not going to go. I'd love to go and do X as a fitness thing. I might not be very good at it. Or like we get it all the time in strongman where people are like, I want to do a first strongman comp. I'm not ready yet. I don't think I'll be able to win. And we're always like, that's great, but in the best possible way, it's your first competition. You're not going to win. Like it's very rare. I think maybe I can think of maybe a very few examples. I think maybe Lewis Hamilton won the world championship, maybe in his first year in Formula One, but he had like the best car and was a freak, right? It very rarely happens that in any discipline. I'm sure Usain Bolt lost races in his time, right? Always win. But what happens if that's the mindset of I might not be very good at it is like what we found out throughout the first day of the event where we're making mistakes, we're just learning and accumulating stuff, which obviously gives you more experience the next time you do it. But actually what I'm finding now I'm back is it really, really educates and puts a reason behind my training. Lots of the stuff I felt I wasn't very good at was in like squatting and lunging, which you don't do any of in strongman.
Right.
And I'm not like I'd say I don't have weak quads, but that endurance for it is not up to what the standard of the finalists were doing by a long shot. But now when I've got a lunge, I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to go up a dumbbell size and actually push this rather than it be like this accessory movement that I feel I should do. It's got more purpose behind it. And like when I go off running in the classes, I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's absolutely dumping down with rain. That's fine. Just go and do it. And I guess one of the keys is like maintaining that mindset. But I know I'm going to go and do Tribal Clash next year now. So I've instantly got this focus on this like big ass goal that's actually still a little bit scary because we still won't know what we're doing. But it gives like an in the moment purpose around the thing that you're doing. A few conversations with clients about diet and stuff, and one lady is sort of she's got more of a running focus and she wants to get back more into running. And we're like, well, let's just slide up to maintenance and just focus on the running. Let's get some fuel in you and get better at running with her running coach. Because maybe dieting isn't like you're struggling to stick to the diet. So this isn't giving in. This is just like when you hook up dieting, it's really boring. Like you're eating the same foods over and over again. Let's have something that is more inspiring. Yeah. And I think having that focus of doing something, I just said this into my WhatsApp members group actually. So if anyone's listening, I'm sort of repeating myself a little bit, but go do the scarier thing that is like that you know deep down is doable, but you're finding reasons not to do it. I'm not saying like go and do a solo skydive without an instructor. Like, that's madness, right? But do something that is possible.
Yeah.
Because I think when you push yourself like that and just get slightly outside your comfort zone, good things happen.
Mm.
And then around, like, I know that Suze listens to the podcast and she's one of my teammates with Tribal Clash. And I know like we really got stuck into nutrition and stuff and training. And
Hmm.
now I think she's feeling a little bit rudderless, but I'm hoping we're all going to go and do TEF games in February
All right. Yeah.
and stuff, and just like try and have those little mini focuses throughout the year, just to kind of gives you
Hmm.
a reason to turn up to training and push hard. It gives you a reason to eat the right foods for your goal, whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's cool. I think like the other thing I found really cool about Tribal Clash, just from a personal perspective,
Mm.
there were some people with insane rigs there,
Hmm.
which is always kind of cool to look at. But like a lot of people get a bit like intimidated by that.
Mm.
But what I noticed, and it was the first time I've noticed it, because I feel everyone has like the odd body image hang-ups and stuff, but I'm like, Christ, the guys who are like in all right shape, got a bit of body fat hanging around here or there, but they just look like fit and strong, and they look like
Hmm.
they look like they have a few beers.
Yeah.
They look like they can climb out that rope endlessly, though. They're in the last 24. Like, you don't have to be like a cover model to go do this thing. And arguably, if you don't naturally look like that, you're not going to do the thing very well.
Hmm.
Um, so that was an interesting like mindset shift for me in terms of, because it was a bit about when going into tribal and being there on the beach and doing swimming and stuff. Like, oh, we have our shirts off. Maybe we should like lean up a little bit and get
Sure.
it. And it's like, actually, no, we're not going to do that because it's going to be bloody hard. So
Yeah.
let's not go in there depleted and bury ourselves just because we want to look good in a photo. We still look cool in a photo when you're climbing up a rope or
Hmm.
around a beam or whatever. So, yeah, I think those are like the biggest takeaways from that event, and it being like really cool.
Mm. There's a meme that went viral of this heavier set American guy who is going around a roller rink or a skate park in rollerblades, and then he comes up to the lip, does a backflip, and then he lands on the flat surface, and he's just wearing rollerblades, denim jeans, and nothing up top. And he says, "I know, no, I know it may not look like it, or you may not like it, but this is what peak athletic performance looks like."
Yeah. So I don't think I've talked about this. I might have talked about this in the podcast before. I repeat myself often, but when Travis Kelce's team won the Super Bowl, it was
Yeah.
the whole Taylor Swift thing and stuff. I
Mm.
saw like a few bits on social media where people like it was coaches like going at people for like saying daft stuff, but they're I don't know, I don't even know what position Travis Kelce plays, but there's a photo of him and Taylor Swift on the beach after the Super
Mm.
Bowl, and people are like, oh bloody hell, he doesn't look like an athlete.
Yes.
It's like he's just won the Super Bowl. Like that's what he looks like for his
Mm.
position. Like you can't say he's not an athlete. He's just won the Super Bowl, which is something that is like elite level sport.
Hmm.
Just because he doesn't have a six pack doesn't mean he's not good at running, tackling people, whatever he needs to do in his position. Like not everybody, like the position demands the physique sometimes. So
Yes.
you look at the women's weightlifting at the end of the Olympics, like the British girl who finished third, they're all like 140 kilos.
Hmm.
But that's like mass moves mass, even in a highly technical event like that.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, she was the best weightlifter, but the biggest girl won as well.
Hmm.
Like I think the Chinese girl finished in third, and she was the heaviest athlete.
Hmm.
She was also exceptional and I probably would have won at the same body weight as the other girls. It's like, but
Yeah.
yeah, the physique fits the position. Is that necessarily healthy for every person in the population? No, if you're not an elite weightlifter, no, probably you probably don't need to be 140 kilos. They probably don't need to be for their health. It's just, it's their job essentially.
Hmm. That's
Um,
right.
but it gives a good spectrum of like bodies do, yeah, bodies
Mm.
do different
Do
things.
all kinds of different things. Yeah. Now, one of the things that we talked about, I think, a little bit when the Olympics was happening, but the track and field athletes, and also partly the Daley Thompson um, documentary, is just I like the variability in their training because, like, obviously they'll do
Yeah,
their very sports specific stuff, but then they'll do a lot of accessory things that go along to help that. So that might be cleans or power cleans, box squats,
Yep.
all that sort of stuff. So it's priming them, and then as they get more closer and closer to peaking for their competition, then they'll get dialed into the actual specific things they need for the events that they're doing. And it's just really cool to see. And like you say, the different body types of the men and the women, it's just really great to see that sort
Yeah.
of because obviously lots of people want to be see themselves somehow represented in something, whether that's in media, sport, or
Mm. Yeah.
anything like that. And that when you've got something like the Olympics that comes along, it's inspiring for a lot.
Yeah. And going slightly back to Tribal Clash, so the team that finished last, so this ties all the way back to my analogy of don't not go do the thing because you don't
Hmm.
think you're going to finish first. So out of 116 teams, the team that finished last, one of their team was over 60.
Really,
Fucking epic.
that's cool.
And they were like the people's champion. Like
Hmm.
in every like captain's briefing where they're like, "Oh, can we modify this for our athlete?" She's like 60. Yes, of course. You guys are fucking legends.
Hmm.
Like probably even I can't speak for them, but probably even the team that finished first, like all like practically professional CrossFitters would have been like, "That's sick."
Hmm.
Love it. Like
Yeah.
sick in the positive sense, yeah. Like not in the
Hmm. Not the tick.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, because I think Danielle in our team was saying, she's like, what is there actually like an entry standard for? I was like, no, I think it just like self-selects.
Hmm.
You watch the video for Tribal Clash, you see them doing the thing, you're like, yeah, I could give that a crack.
Hmm.
And it tends to be like what a story, like, what a story to tell of like that 60 odd year old being like, yeah, I couldn't quite swing myself over a beam without assistance, so I had to get two of my teammates to boost me.
Yeah.
I was like, you're still swinging yourself over a beam. That's wicked.
Yeah.
So good.
Hmm.
So yeah, I liked it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah. Right. Let's move on from that, my slightly self-indulgent kind of recap of the weekend. Let's do some hypotheticals.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say let's start with the second one you gave me first because I've got more of a more of an idea. So the second one, Josh was talking about like this is a section of the podcast we're going to try and introduce where I give people a bit of practical help. But Josh is talking about this hypothetical guy
Mhm.
in his mid-30s, does a lot of hybrid training, looking to get in strongman, plant-based eater, vegetarian, vegan,
Vegetarian, you know, like
vegetarian.
ham eggs and things, and whey shakes and stuff. So
Yeah. And protein requirement 200 grams well, he's trying to get in 200 grams of protein a day and finding that a little bit tricky. So
mm,
guess like from my perspective, first place I'd look with this is 200 grams of protein right for him and his goals? So have we got a rough idea of his height or weight?
uh, 5'11", just no 5'11", maybe about roughly 6 foot, and then how many kilos? Say ballpark around 95 to 98 kilos, something like that.
Cool. And is he trying to gain weight, lose weight, maintain weight?
Lean out, lose some body fat.
Okay, cool. All right. So in that sense, he's about I kind of use a rule of thumb of height in centimeters minus 100 as your like lean body mass.
Right.
So yeah, he's there or thereabouts. So we'll take it. Yeah. So wants to lose a little bit of weight. So let's say he wants to get down. Oh, you could do target weight
Hmm.
if that's appropriate for him to lose some body mass. So let's say he wants to get to what, 85 maybe?
Yeah, yeah, 80, 88, 90, maybe something like that.
Maybe 90. Okay. So yeah. Um, protein requirements then 90 kilo person. You could double that if you wanted to be on the safe side. So that'd be
Mhm.
180 grams. So there's 20 grams I've saved him already.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's fairly appropriate. So then I guess it then comes down to food choices.
Hmm.
Harder when you're eating plants,
Hmm.
but a little bit better if you can have dairy.
Yeah.
Um, so those whey shakes, you say, going to be
Hmm.
handy. Um, the first place to look actually for any of you, regardless what your protein goal is, if you can't get enough protein, go find where the protein is in your food that you normally eat
Hmm.
and eat more of that thing.
Yep.
Very, very overlooked. People get a little bit blind spotted by this. So if you're having cornflakes for breakfast, is there any protein in that? Not really. So you could have a shitload of cornflakes, but you're going to end up with a shitload of calories, and that ain't going to work.
Hmm.
Like, what can we add to that? Can we add a shake to that to boost that meal up? Can we add some Greek yogurt? Maybe it comes to lunch and he's got like something with tofu in it, just
Hmm.
terribly. That's his source of protein. Can we get some more of that on his plate?
Hmm.
Often with plant-based sources of protein, it's half and half protein and carbs.
Yep.
But that doesn't matter. The calories matter. You're going to need to eat more of the thing and it's going to be more filling.
Hmm.
But if he's got a fat loss goal, that's not necessarily detrimental to him. He's going to have a lot of plants in the diet, nice and filling. Fiber's going to go up a little bit. Again, most vegetarians, vegans, heavily plant-based eaters who have an athletic goal are probably going to need to take some kind of protein supplement to get that in.
Hmm.
And if they don't want to do that, I guess the question is why,
Okay.
for me.
Well, the most common this, thing I do here is just the level of processing that goes into it, but that ties into the article we talked about a little while ago of
Yeah.
UPFs being an unhelpful concept in some instances when you've
Yeah.
got a product that's been specifically designed to help with health, fitness, wellness goals, but it does fit into that category, unfortunately.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's no real, a lot of the evidence that EPFs are harmful for people are very complex.
Hmm.
As we said many times before, it's probably more to do with access to healthcare, whether we live in poverty or not, all
Hmm.
those kind of things,
Yeah.
versus because none of it actually says, oh, ultra processed foods are harmful. Well, what's the mechanism for it? What
Hmm.
part of it is harmful?
Yeah.
What part of taking milk and filtering it a little bit to skim off the whey
Hmm.
is going to kill you?
Yeah.
It's still the same thing. You've put it through a machine that's sterile.
Hmm.
It has to be. So what part of that is going to kill you?
Hmm.
And people don't know.
No.
Probably ain't that. So yeah, I think yeah. Again, it's a conversation to have around that. So shakes make it easier. Bring up the dairy, find the bits which are higher in protein, and eat
Hmm.
more of those. And often as well, planning. So the other little tip I give to my clients, let's say his goal is 200 grams of protein a day. He's going to eat 3 meals a day. Split that into three.
Hmm.
Work out how you're going to get, what is that? Oh, my brain's hurting. 50, 70. Yeah, whatever that is. 70, 140. So that's like 60 odd grams of protein each meal.
66.6%.
Yeah, I was close. Yeah. So where can I get 60 grams of protein at each meal plus a little bit in a snack? Break it down that way. And
Hmm.
that educates the process. Break it down into steps a little bit like that,
Yeah.
which is probably going to be reliant on a few shakes because plant-based sources, but if you have like beans, for
Mm.
example, like some kind of kidney bean or something, you're going to get maybe a whole can is going to give you 20 to 30 grams of protein.
Hmm.
That's a lot of food.
That is.
Then have two whole cans, you're going to be a bit windy as well, probably, if you're lucky. So, like, yeah, you have to think about it a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. Mm.
Right, second case. This is the hard one.
It is, yeah.
We've got 60-year-old guy.
Male again. Yeah.
Yeah, 60-year-old guy, type 2 diabetic. Does still smoke and drink a little bit, or just
A little bit, but has a history of heavier usage.
mm, and
Has started health fitness journey seriously, I think, 2 years ago, let's say
yeah,
that. Has lost some weight, but has plateaued quite
yeah,
a bit. And is somewhat reliant on meal replacement, shakes
Mm.
as a breakfast, for example,
Yeah.
and is wary about increasing calories and things. Well, not necessarily. Well, one, increasing calories, but also um, eating more food. Because usually when questions I've had in the past from some clients is like when I give them suggestions or a nutrition plan of some sort, they'll initially go, "That's a lot of food," and like
Yeah.
comparative to what they've been having before. Sure, it is, but whereas they break it up through the days and the weeks, it's
Mm.
normal, I'd say.
Yeah, and I think like the thing to outline with that sort of that's a lot of food is might look a lot of food on the plate. How
Mm.
many calories is it?
Hmm.
Because if you have a sauce like a large sausage roll,
Hmm.
a Scotch egg, and a tub of Pringles,
Hmm.
that probably fits on a two-thirds of a dinner plate,
Yeah.
but it's probably over 1,000 calories.
Yeah.
Whereas if you had two large chicken breasts, a load of green leaves, drizzle of olive oil, and a
Mm.
small baked potato, it's probably half those calories, but
Yeah.
a shitload more food
Mm. Much more
in terms
nutrient.
of food volume.
Hmm.
Much more nutritious as well. Like even nutrition aside,
Yeah.
micronutrition aside, then that's a lot of food, looks filling. So it's about that kind of, are we talking about the amount of stuff on the plate or the amount of energy that it provides your body?
Hmm.
Because that energy is what makes the difference if you want to lose body fat.
Yes.
Um, then it's probably about like different strategies around why is the other stuff, that higher calorie, more palatable stuff there?
Hmm.
What purpose is it serving?
Hmm.
Is it a convenience thing? Is it a comfort thing?
Hmm.
Is it a kind of I don't like cooking thing?
Yeah.
And then it becomes very complex because then also like reasons to stick to it. When you're 60 years old, you've got a lot of lived experience and a lot of ingrained habits.
Hmm.
So the thing that's going to change stuff for you has got to be massive.
Mm.
And yeah, I don't. Well, it is possible for everyone to do it, but it's going to be harder the more times you've done it the other way.
Hmm.
But one of the things I'm playing around with, it ties a little bit back into this sort of like goal setting thing I was talking about around Tribal Clash.
Mm.
Those like having that big ass goal in mind. Finding ways to motivate yourself in the moment. So I was reading something by Emma Story Gordon. She's talking about like health isn't that motivating for people.
Hmm.
It's not as much as you think. Obviously, you get people who have like a massive health scare and they're like, no, the switch is flipped. I'm going now. I'm going all in and I need
Yeah.
to fix this. That often works. And that's like a fear-based thing, but in like a positive. So that's not the same as someone shaming you into it or making you feel scared. That's like an internal, like, shit, this needs to happen now. A
Hmm.
little bit like with our guys with the like training around Tribal Clash. I don't want to let anyone else down. That's a
Yeah.
fear bait. That's like a positive fear bait, like in that situation, a positive like thing around it. Finding ways to, when you're doing the thing, get little hits of motivation around it.
Hmm.
So, like, building a business is hard, but like when your customers give you nice feedback, or you see a client result, or like you get a new client, like there's little micro hits of like, why am I sat here doing like my scheduling my social media posts or whatever, all the stuff that you don't want to do has
Mm.
to be like a purpose around it that is like more short term than I want to live to 150, I want to live to 120.
Hmm.
That's so far away. It's quite difficult to like grab hold of and get any motivation from when stuff goes wrong
Yeah.
or like bumps in the road appear. And again, this is kind of why I put it in my WhatsApp group of like, let's not always focus around the food thing. Let's find something else that's motivating. Is it a little challenge that we can do? Like sign up to a Tough Mudder or something, or sign up to an obstacle course race, or like whatever's appropriate for you.
Yeah.
We do that in a team, so we've got like a bit of like um accountability
Yeah.
as well, like, and not like direct accountability from like a coach, which is that's their job, but that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And yeah, just like really breaking it down like that can help, I think. But it's all about having those little like endorphin hits. So like, oh no, I'm doing a good job at this,
Hmm.
but then indirectly affect the thing that you're doing. So I do like exercise as a complementary bit to nutrition,
Hmm.
because you do the thing, you get the endorphin hit afterwards. You know, you do some strength training, you get stronger, especially if you're new to it.
Hmm.
And then often it starts to like, oh, I want to be better at the thing that I'm getting this little endorphin hit from. So oh, maybe I should have a bit more protein.
Yeah.
Maybe I should eat my veg, or maybe I should drink a bit more. Sometimes like maybe I should drink a bit more water. I keep cramping out. Yeah. And it's kind of like funny how it knits together.
Hmm.
But the exercise thing is like the more like direct. So sometimes that works really well with that type of person.
No, I agree. That's something I kind of try and either extrapolate or philosophize or something like that, because occasionally you get into a little bit of a lull and start looking inwardly and thinking, what do you find fulfilling or
Yeah.
stuff like that. Probably going on a bit of a tangent here, but basically, I like the gym analogy because I go there, I do the thing, I get
Mm.
some sort of result, whether that's I've hit a certain weight, I've done more reps, things that felt hard before feel easier now, and there's that sort of almost immediate feedback.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the business side of things, that's where in some parts in my head where the motivation wanes a little bit
Yeah.
and where discipline has to kind of come back in again
Yeah.
because you're doing these things for something to come further along in time, because like generating leads, getting clients,
Yeah.
um like you said, scheduling social media posts, all that sort of stuff, and also creating the content takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And when you put it out there, it will be a slow burner,
Mm.
or it might go viral. You never know.
Yeah.
But that for me personally is always something that's been a bit of a battle here and there, because
Yeah.
we've talked about the delayed gratification thing before, and big advocate for it. And but at times, even as coaches and as trainers, you'll have those moments like everybody else does. It's
Mm.
like, am I on the right path? Am I doing the right thing? And you know that you are, but there's just maybe some existential things that are coming into your mind or clouding things a little bit. But if you stay the course,
Mm.
it will pay dividends in the end, both.
Yeah. And I guess like the delayed gratification bit is important. It's very difficult to delay gratification in the modern environment.
Mm.
Um, but like, what is the thing that brings you joy that is better than caving in to instant gratification?
Hmm.
And like maybe like for you and I, it's going to the gym. For a lot of people, it isn't, but it might
Yeah.
be like playing with their kids and not having to make noises when they bend down to pick them up because they're a little bit more mobile,
Hmm.
which can be fixed fairly quickly and have a fairly quick impact. Maybe it's like cutting down on alcohol, but not eliminating it entirely,
Mm.
but feeling great when you wake up in the morning and then being able to like get a report in on time, or not be grumpy with your co-workers, or get the kids out the door in the morning without having an argument because you're not feeling rough all of the
Hmm.
time. Like those things are a little bit more tangible in the moment. And then it's like, oh, well, maybe I will carry on with like only having a glass of wine with dinner rather than the bottle.
Hmm.
That is a more instant thing. And it's finding that more instant thing to almost use as a stepping stone.
Yeah.
And then that spirals, right? Because then it's like, oh, well, maybe I could go to the gym. Now I feel a little bit better first thing in the morning. Maybe I could, but you have to give it the chance to spiral and compound.
And build and stack.
It's like that. Start small. Like, oh yeah, could I just eat a piece of fruit every day, even if I
Hmm.
hate it, because I'll feel better tomorrow.
Hmm.
And it's still fairly, it tastes sweet. There's a little bit of like pleasure from that. That's why I often be like, let's not go straight to snacking on celery sticks,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and trying to there was one, I can't remember who it was, but it was some influencer I saw on Instagram where they were talking about trying to shift the narrative around diet or diet culture at least.
Hmm.
Why would you think nourishing your body with what it needs is going on a diet or being
Yeah.
less fun,
Yeah.
basically? Um, and I can kind of see what she was getting at, but I haven't seen the rest of this person's content, but I know it would not know, but kind of could take an educated guess that it would probably say go down the route of seed oils being incredibly harmful and the
Yeah.
same thing with UPFs.
Yeah.
But yeah, the main what am I trying to get at? The I agree there needs to be a shift around the terminology used and things like that, but it's quite difficult when you're in a clickbaity society.
Oh,
And,
100%. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, it is. But I think like to keep nutrition really, really simple, if you're struggling with your weight,
mm,
plan your meals in advance.
yeah,
Don't
eat
snack.
eat at consistent times.
Eat at consistent times, which will help you to not snack.
Mm,
Eat like a grown up, which will help you to not snack. So that's
mm,
fruit, vegetables, protein, proper size meals.
mhm.
Yes, you're eating more volume of food, but that will reduce the calories if we're not eating all the pasties and pies and pizza, which have a place, but
Yeah.
shouldn't be there all of the time if we want to keep the calories lower. Um, yeah, I mean, like for example, like I'm having maybe I might do it for a couple of weeks. I'm bored of it already. Like just cut down the calories a little bit while I'm training slightly differently, not pushing strength. Just
Mhm.
drop a little bit of body fat. Don't really need to drop a lot. I didn't need to drop any to start with anyway, but just pure vanity
Yeah.
and a change of focus.
Yeah.
Um, Finished doing my gym session this morning, tough high rocks thing at 6 a.m. I'd had some breakfast, had like my protein cookie because it was there and wanted some food. Someone offered me a Danish pastry. I was like, yeah, I really want that. Slam back a Danish pastry. That's 300 calories, like 350 calories I don't get to eat. And I'm really hungry now,
Mhm.
but fine. But if I didn't want to be really hungry now, I shouldn't have had that Danish pastry earlier.
Mhm.
In the moment, I was like, fine, I'll have it. Yeah, I'll figure it out. But most people are like, oh, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. They get to dinner. They've already had 2,500 calories before they've had dinner and a glass of wine.
Yeah.
It's like no sort of like planning. And that's not a criticism. It's just a statement of fact and reality that
Mhm.
we can't have all of the things all of the time and then not be an impact on that, especially if we want to lose some body fat.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Okay. All right. Let's wrap it up there. Um, we'll keep the hypotheticals coming. I'll think of some next week so that it's
Okay.
not just Josh feeding into us all the time. Um, where can people find you, Josh?
At Josh Weebout90 on Instagram.
Perfect. You can find me at Food Flexibility on Instagram and Facebook. Foodflexibility.co.uk. Any question for the podcast, you can leave a comment. You can leave a comment on YouTube as well. We're going live onto there. And if not, old-fashioned way, just send me an email, tim@foodflexibility.co.uk. We do love the questions coming in. We'll answer literally anything. We'll give it a red hot
Mhm.
crack. If we don't know, we don't know. We'll research it and all that kind of stuff. But until next time, please remember, carbs won't make you fat.